Yes. So far, so good.
Oh, God. And you know to touch the bottom. So I'm just in the kitchen doing some, yeah.
That Lee throwing the feedback?
Might be. I think so.
Hello.
Hi, Lee.
There you are.
It's Betty.
Oh,
Hi, Betty.
Is this thing gonna work today?
Hi,
yes,
Lee.
Can you hear me?
yes.
We can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can, Betty.
Oh, why the hell? Hello? You shut up! Hello?
So we're now at quorum. Did you check your chat, James?
I can't fucking hear.
We can hear you, Lee.
Yeah,
And we're live on YouTube,
that's nice.
just
I
so you
think
know.
the town already knows what my mouth is like.
Is the Galaxy S8 a board member?
They're not muted.
Okay.
Could the person signed in as Galaxy S8 please either mute yourself if you're not a board member or state your name?
I don't know if it's me or not. I just went in on my regular phone.
No.
No, it's
Okay.
And that's usually not Tim's number. They've come in before, but I don't know if they've ever identified themselves. And Tim usually comes in with a 942 number, I believe.
Yeah, I think we need to know who it is. It's a public meeting.
Right, I agree. Well, I don't
We
think we
need to know who they are if they speak.
Yes, exactly.
okay. So I have another phone number. 603-817-0329. Nope. Anyone? Not a
Hi.
board member?
Sorry, not a board member.
Okay,
Okay, that's fine.
I'm gonna mute you. I can't mute the Galaxy S8 for some reason. It's not giving me that option.
They might not be well connected enough. It might take a bit to do that, but check it on occasion. Okay. And would the person who called in at 296-5173 identify themselves? Are you a board member or not?
Hi, no, I'm not a board member.
That's fine. Thank you.
I'm gonna mute you. And there's Linda. She's coming.
Okay.
And
We probably should have a listing of all the phone numbers that board members call in, so we avoid doing this next time if we have to.
yeah,
So it might be easier to just do a roll call attendance. And if board members don't respond, then
True.
we're presuming they're not connected.
True. Well, there's 4 of us here at least, so we could get going. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Let me give one more minute till 5 after. So I believe Victoria was planning on attending. 1 second. James, did you send that to, you emailed that to me to home account or school account?
MetroCast.
Okay. Huh. No, there
Just
they are.
trying to get in.
There they are. Thank you.
Yep.
Hang on a minute.
Okay. So why don't we get going then at, oops.
Victoria's trying to get in.
She is.
Hang on
Okay.
a second.
Sure.
Yeah, I just need to send her the link.
We can wait.
Oh my God.
Can you, did anything on the Galaxy S8, can that be muted now or?
I don't even know if it's,
They're still on. Not that it matters, but
Says they're connecting to audio now.
yeah. It's probably just a bad connection. Okay.
okay. Here's Victoria.
Okay. So I'll call the Town of Northwood Planning Board meeting of July 23rd, 2020 to order at 7:08 p.m. under the following due to circumstances associated with the coronavirus pandemic and pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, which declared New Hampshire to be in a state of emergency due to novel coronavirus COVID-19. An emergency exists as defined by RSA 91-A:2, paragraph 3 for the July 23rd, 2020 Town of Northwood Planning Board meeting. Board members who are unable to attend in person may participate via electronic communication and will be deemed to be present at the meeting for purposes of quorum and voting. At this point in time, all board members present, please introduce yourselves.
Victoria
Betty
Parley?
Well,
Lee Baldwin.
that's two of us.
We get there.
We'll get there.
Go ahead, Betty.
Yep.
Betty Smith.
We have one more.
Hal?
Al Craig.
Okay. And Chair Bob Strobel. Voting designation is all members present. And just as a reminder, as per our normal emergency procedures, any votes taken tonight will be done via roll call. Okay. Get up my screen here. First up tonight is continued case 18-20 68 Granite Street Properties. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me fine?
Yes,
Okay.
I
good.
can at least.
All right. You're the only one that counts, Bob.
Well, no, I'm not the only one who counts.
Well, good evening, folks. My name is Mark Sargent. I'm with the firm of Richard Bartlett and Associates, and I'm here tonight representing 168 Granite Street Properties. And with me this evening is also Mark Hodgson, who is the Eames' attorney, Jeff and Rachel Eames, and Naomi Prawl, who is our engineer. It's been a while before you've been before the board, so we kind of wanted to get before you again, give you an update as to where we are. I don't know if you want me, Bob, to kind of
Go
give
ahead.
a synopsis where.
That's why I was going to ask you to do
Okay.
so if you wouldn't mind, but you're
Sure.
one step ahead of me. That's fine.
Yeah, the site is map 108, lot 102, runs between Route 4 and Old Turnpike Road. The subdivision that we're proposing originally started at a 16 lot, but we have reduced it to a 15 lot at the request of the board by providing a secondary access point to Old Turnpike Road. When we were last before the board, we were looking for a peer review, which we did receive that the latter part of June. Most of the comments pertained to our engineering of the roadway. I'll let Naomi address those concerns. She's addressed them all. We also had a traffic review. The traffic made I guess a suggestion that maybe we provide a gated entrance at Route 4. That's a non-starter for us. So even though it was a suggestion, we wouldn't take that suggestion. We have met with representatives from District 6 out on our proposed roadway access to Route 4. They had no issues with our access there, and our site distance greatly exceeds the minimum requirement. I think looking to the west, we are over 900 feet, and looking to the east, we're 1,400 feet, where the minimum requirement in that area is 245 feet. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Naomi so she can review the engineering comments.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I just, before I get into this, I didn't know if everyone did receive a copy of this, so you can follow along if everyone actually has the letter that we provided.
Yep.
I wasn't planning, okay, I wasn't planning to go through each and every comment. And if you would like me to, I will. So just know.
I haven't. I have a copy in front of me and I had a chance to review it. I can't speak for anybody else on the board. I believe we got it earlier the other day.
Yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty, 2 or 3 pages long, Naomi.
Yes. Yeah. So I would say the bulk of the comments were fairly straightforward, and they were items that they requested that we add to the plans, either information or additional information on details or additional details. There were a couple of comments that they asked us to add some more information to the overall plans in terms of the well radii and the test bit locations and 4K boxes for the septic systems. That information, I believe, was shown on the subdivision plans, but I think that they wanted us to have it all on the grading plans as well. So we did add that information, and pretty much, and I think all of the details that they requested, we added to the detail sheets. A couple things I do just want to mention that were added that are sort of significant, I think. There was a question that was raised about the water source for fire protection, and we have added a 30,000 gallon cistern up in the sort of circular part of the roadway. Obviously, that's going to need to be reviewed with the fire department. That's, you know, we had just put notes on the plan to that effect. And the other item that they had requested was an inspection and maintenance plan for the stormwater controls that are proposed on the site. So we did provide that as a separate document. I'm not sure if you received that as well with your packets, but that is essentially a standalone document. And that document is also required by the state as part of our alteration of terrain permit when we get as far as, you know, obtaining that permit. So we needed to do that anyway. It just, we hadn't gotten to it yet. So And I think unless anyone had specific questions or comments on any of the items in the review, I'd be happy to answer those questions or expand further on any of these items. But otherwise, like I said, I think it was pretty straightforward stuff.
Okay, Hal?
Two parts to this, Bob. The first part is on the maintenance plan, who is responsible for actually doing the maintenance? Is that the town? The reason I'm asking is it might be nice to have Chris just take a look, make sure we're not missing anything if he isn't indeed responsible for it.
I can't answer that one. I would suspect that the cost for the inspection would come from the applicant or their designee to be turned into the town.
I'm talking about the actual, she talked about a maintenance plan, which I thought was very nice,
Yeah.
very good, very complete. But I wasn't clear on who's responsible for doing the maintenance.
I believe that would be the homeowners association or someone
Well,
on
it
the,
would be the town if it's
Is
if
it?
it's part of the roadway.
That's what I'm asking, yeah. And I
It's
assume,
always the town because they give
Okay.
us the easements to it, if that's what it is. Are we talking about for the stormwater for the road?
yeah, look at the maintenance plan. You'll see the items listed and stuff.
Oh, okay. I have the other document open.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, it talks about the storm drains and different things like that, cleaning off the screening.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get far enough down to it. So yes, that would be the town.
Okay, so that answers that question. Second question, or actually it's not a question, it's actually a point. I thought it was very good that you put in perspective the flow of water off this site relative to the total for Meadow Brook. We did have a fair number of comments regarding concerns with water flow. And I think having that perspective in terms of how much this site contributes relative to the overall flow really put that in perspective for me, and I appreciated you doing that.
Okay, thank you. Talking of water flow, and I guess this is more on my own end as soon as I pull up the drawing here. And I'm not trying to second guess any of the engineers here. Don't even think that. It's more for my own clarification. You are the professionals, not me. With the addition of the access road to Old Turnpike Road, is there any concern over during a flood stage or a flooding or increased volume of water, velocity of water flowing from Flat Meadow Brook around that curve that is now in Lot 8 for increased erosion on that access road? No, that looks to me that the embankment on the rear access, whatever you want to call it, goes right down to almost right down to the water. And if there's any chance of that washing away in a 100-year or 500-year flood, or maybe not washing away, but disappearing or being decreased. Was that considered? I'm assuming it was, but.
I have to apologize because I don't have plans in front of me. So are you talking about the lot that is, if you were heading down the access road to Old Turnpike, that would be on the right-hand side?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and that's where we are proposing, there's a treatment swale that's proposed there now.
Correct.
The water gets. What I can say is that was designed for the design storm, that we looked at, which I believe was a 50-year storm. So obviously, any event that exceeds that storm event, I'm not going to say all bets are off, but
Sure.
That's not something that we necessarily designed for. we check normally detention basins for peak elevations and things like that. But in terms of treatment swales, it's more, the design is more based on a velocity and depth of flow during a lower storm event.
Well, it's not so much water that is coming off the site that I was wondering about, more that water that is coming on the site through underneath the culvert into that lot, and then doing essentially a 90-degree turn. You know, your lot 8 is has a significant amount of water on it. Most of that Flat Meadow Brook flows through it, and but if that roadway between lot 8 and lot 9 comes right down to the water. So, I don't know if I'm making myself clear or not, but I'll trust your engineering skills.
I think what you're saying, Bob, is and I'm looking at the plans right now. I mean, the roadway itself sits considerably higher than the river.
Right.
So
it's not that I'm worried. It's not that overtopping or anything, but you know, you're going to have an embankment of whatever the slope is. Yeah. You know, if this is where it comes right down into Flat Meadow Brook, you got 100-year or 50-year storm at some point in time that may or may not start taking out your embankment.
Okay. Well, I think, it's a difference between what's wetland and what's channel out there.
Sure. If there's enough stacking or I guess, is that the right word? Stacking capacity or, surge capacity on that lot, then it's not an issue. It's more, not being an engineer, taking a look at it, it seemed to me that might be a factor, but probably not.
I don't know, Naomi, what's your feeling on that?
I guess, it's hard to say without knowing exactly what the elevation of Flat Meadow Brook would actually get up to during those high storm events. But as Mark said, the road itself is much higher. And right. I think in terms of a safety issue, I can't remember exactly where we show the proposed home and driveway, but that would be significantly higher as well.
To be honest, I wasn't so concerned about the home itself, but more the lack. We're building it a rear access point off of this to solve other issues. As one, and truth be told, this is Pam Sanderson, who has spoken before on this case, and in full disclosure, she is my neighbor, a butter. During prior events, and I can't remember exactly how many years ago she's been referred to this. I think it was I know she talked about the Mother's Day flood in 2003,
3
5,
or 4,
maybe.
Yeah.
Right, one of those. It's been a while. That the Flat Meadow Brook overflowed or covered Old Turnpike Road.
Right.
And had photos of
I
that.
can vouch for that.
Yes.
With full disclosure, I live on that road, and there's been numerous times over the last 20 years that the people who live on Old Turnpike Road were not able to get out because it flooded on the low side as you first come in, but also the next to the west, the road actually washed out right across Flat Meadow from one side to the other, pavement, and that's quite high there, as well as backing up. I'm on a high elevation, and the Flat Meadow is low on the back of my property. But during storms, it has come up in bad storms, several that were more like 100-year storms. It came up 6-8 feet higher on the bank than it is normally. So it is a brook that, for whatever reason, does have a large flow at, at specific times after large storms, and it does get backed up. It does on the property across the street from me at the upper end. It backs up quite a lot into almost a pond because the culvert, although they're that the town installed, you can walk through them and standing up. The surge is so great that it backs up even on those large culverts. So I'll only say that Bob's concern is very valid.
If I may,
Certainly.
the design is intended to ensure that increased flow running off the property does not increase. And that's required for DES purposes. And I would defer to Naomi, but I think it's a 100-year storm that it's designed to, or at least it used to be, unless something has changed. But regardless, DES requires that the standards do not increase flow off the property, so we would not be exacerbating that situation. Obviously, you have a pre-existing condition, which is not the landowner's fault.
Right. Well, I think
we're not exacerbating it.
I agree with you there. And Hal, I think I know you're going to say the exact same thing I'm going to say, is that give me a second. Let me look at I'm looking at one plot, and it might show the existing conditions on that same lot. Hal, if you want to speak, go ahead.
Well, I think Mark is making a good point there. And that was part of what I commented on earlier. This development only contributes a very small portion, less than 1/20th of what is, going through this area here. And their designs, like you said, we have to trust the engineers, but it looks like for the very small portion that it does contribute, it would actually help the situation. And I guess what I'm thinking is I don't know that we could really ask the applicant to do something different as long as they're doing their part for their, their property. I don't know that we'd have any purview to consider anything like that.
Is what you're asking, so yeah, I think the last couple of comments have been about not exacerbating the existing conditions that we know are frequently problematic.
Right.
Is what you're asking, is that in fact what you're asking? Is this mitigating to the extent what's coming off of this, or is what you're asking actually, we know there are existing conditions that are problematic, is what you're proposing to build designed to withstand those problematic conditions and be resilient to that? Right. Is that what you were getting at?
That's what I was trying to get at.
Okay, that's a different question and different point than I was making. So I think maybe Bob could explore that a little bit more then and help us understand that.
The idea, because truth be told, Flat Motor Brook is on the adjacent property to mine, not in. I'm in the part of my property is has water on it from that. During high water zones, as the applicants pointed out, the watershed area for Flat Meadow Brook is, what was it, 2 point some square miles? So significant portion of the watershed is, or a minor portion, very minor portion of the watershed is impacted by this application. The problem, as I see it, is that before the board asked to put in the access between the the Circle and Old Turnpike Road, those lots 8 and 9, which are essentially impacted by Flat Meadow Brook, had no structures on them aside from the houses. And the houses are high enough up, looking at the elevations. You know, lot 9, the house is at house indicated is at 586, and feet in elevation. And lot 8, you're looking at 556, 560. Flat Meadow Brook is down at 548. So you're talking 10, 12, 20 feet, 15, 12 feet, and 18 feet. That itself is not a problem. I wasn't worried about the houses. The bigger question that I have is during a 100-year flood, if this section of Old Turnpike Road is underwater, which we had photographs of, you know, we're talking then, looking at elevation gains, 556, 558, you have 10 feet of water coming in potentially for that. That ponding area is the word I was looking for on lot 8 is now no longer able to spread over to lot 9 or anywhere else because you've got that rear access road. What I'm trying to express is that during a extreme flood event, which may not be part of the design requirements from either DES or whatever, that rear access road will now be, the embankment will be impacted directly by water. And if what I'm trying to ask is, if in a case like that, if that is just soil or, you know, grass and embankment, there is a significant chance of that being worn away or eroded away, which then impacts the viability of that rear access road. Without trying to design a solution for that, my thought would be to consider hardening that somehow, either with riprap or, you know, something else to potentially mitigate a 150-year or 200-year flood without having to worry while you're in the construction phase, to make that embankment a little more resilient for a problem that is not necessarily yours, or that it is inherent to the site that is not impacted by this design. Does that make sense?
So if we
I
were
think
to,
I'm understanding now. I think I understand now what you're saying. But so are you suggesting that the concern is more during the construction phase, when it would be more susceptible to washout because it's new and open? No,
it's more in general that if that roadway is, in my opinion, not professional, not engineering, certainly, that roadway will be, in an extreme flood event, saturated. And as we saw with some of the videos from Ms. Anderson, you know, there is a significant current coming through that culvert. Obviously, with the volume of water, if Linda attested that the roadway washed out at that point in time, the same thing might happen to that road, the road that you're putting in or propose to put in. My suggestion would be that during construction, that would be the time to consider hardening it.
So, Bob,
whether it's riprap or stone or, you know, something that effect, to potentially mitigate the problem.
so if we propose putting riprap in that vicinity where it takes that bend right there, would that be satisfactory, you think?
I'm,
Rather than a grassed,
I'm expressing a concern. I'm not the engineer and I don't know the design standards. So I can't say if my belief is, or my point is valid or not. That's what I would trust the engineers for. And the reason I mention it is that if that goes in, it certainly would be easier to do during construction than after trying to mitigate it after the fact.
do you think that's
But
a valid point, Naomi, to do riprap in that general area of the slope?
I think we could do that. There are also other products that are sort of less, well, not necessarily stone products. They make various types of matting that are designed for channel flows, even high velocity channel flows that we could explore. I guess are you saying that it actually gets up 10 feet from the bottom elevation, 548? Is that what?
Do we have the videos showed from Miss Anderson showed that the water was cresting over the Turnpike Road.
Okay, and that's roughly 554, 555. So,
In that area, yes, 556, 558.
At the culvert, it's 554.
Okay.
So was that cresting Old Turnpike Road because the water backed up on the wrong side of an insufficient culvert, or was the water level, once it got through, also elevated?
Both.
Yeah, I'd have, sorry, Linda, go ahead.
Both. It backed up in 3 different locations where it met roads, and it backed up in more than one location. But it was a surge of water, but it backed up in more than one location where Flat Meadow met up against a grade. It covered the road and it came up the road. As the road started to come up in one spot, it not only was looked like a lake across the road, but then it started backing up where the grade comes up. But then in the next spot, it ponded back. So it was actually both.
So this is going from my recollection of Miss Sanderson's video and photos. Let's see if I can find a lot line for it, or a lot number. The lot opposite the access road where the culvert comes in on the upstream side, opposite Old Turnpike Road. So there's ponding there. Further down, again, off site, where Flat Meadow Brook goes into its channel or a steep channel, there was ponding that was backing up, and it was ponding onto the proposed site. And then another further down past Linda's is where it ponded over the road at the low spot. Okay, those 2 sites that I mentioned are beyond the current proposal. And I'll state, I think I'm safe in saying this, that the town recognizes that there are problems in this area beyond that affect this site. We are not asking to mitigate those, but I would like to express that, knowing that there are problems off site, I would like myself, not speaking for the board, this to application or this specific part to be as resilient as possible. Until we get a chance to fix, the town gets a chance to fix some of the issues. And if that's, you know, making the embankment on that rear road more resilient, that would be ideal regardless of what the, you know, I'll let you pick the product if that's agreed to. But that's not something I can ask you to fix without the board going on to.
So, wait, Bob, can I?
Yeah.
I was assuming that the resiliency you were asking about or were concerned about was the access road that is on this site. Are you?
Yes. That's all I'm asking. Just the access between the cul-de-sac or turnaround circle and Old Turnpike Road.
So again, I guess to sort of get back at, you know, what the actual water flow was doing, you're suggesting that, you know, we've established that at that culvert at Old Turnpike Road, that's 554, 556 in elevation, there was a problem. And there were problems at other points on Old Turnpike Road where water hit road and was constricted.
Yes, and backed up.
But the backup is on the north side. So
no, that's one backup.
No, there's a backup on the south side too.
Correct. Yes.
But that's further downstream off of this site, correct?
Yes, but this site was impacted.
So you're saying that with all of the collective impacts at various points in the stream, something of elevation 554, 556 on, for example, lot 8, which would be somebody's basement, if not the house. And you're suggesting that, you know, 554, 556 is, it looks like, you know, maybe 2-4 feet below the lowest point of that road, that with the downstream backup that would cause water to back up onto this site, that those would be potentially impacted by that?
That is my recollection, is that from Miss Anderson's video, that the wetlands on lot 7, lot 8, essentially Flat Meadow Brook, were ponds during that event. And that water the water level ponding there was ponding on both the north and south sides of Old Turnpike Road to the level of the pavement.
And did the engineers say that the pavement was at 554?
Correct.
Okay. So that's after it's risen, it's at 554, not it's at 554 and then goes up another 6 feet.
The wetlands buffer zone is at about elevation of 548. And
I'm looking at the drawing. I got it blown up here.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so it looks like the embankment starts at 552, Bob, then goes up to 550. So we're looking at the same spot then. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And so your concern is it because it's making a sharp right angle there, you're concerned about erosion?
Well, just from history, we've had two floods in the last 20 plus years where that have gone above that level. And I guess I'm at the point of advocating, you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah, especially
that road.
Yeah, to fix it.
Right.
But I guess maybe let's let the engineer weigh in if I could ask, Bob.
Sure.
If I guess I'm trying to figure out where it would actually erode.
I'm not worried about it taking out the road itself. It's more that it will take out the embankment or the bottom 2 feet of the embankment. I'm not,
Wow.
at this point, let's say I'll leave it up to the engineers to review. If it's a valid point, go ahead. You've heard my concern.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna belabor it any more than I already have.
So you're just looking for some kind of treatment in that area, Bob?
Potentially. Well,
Yeah.
if you
Okay,
find
good.
it's a valid point, then go ahead. I'll see if I can get a copy of the videos from Miss Anderson. So you can see what the records of what happened with that. And it's multiple, I think it was two separate flooding events that she referred to.
Okay.
So.
Well, certainly we can look at that, Naomi can look at that area and see if there's some additional treatment that is justified there, and we'll provide that.
Yeah.
So to, I guess, give some direction, Linda, you're saying the culvert that is on, I'm not seeing the map on the GIS, map 215 lot 2, that's further down towards West Street, School Street, Route 4. That's the culvert that would be backing this up. So that's sort of the ultimate choke point, and everything that's upstream from that. Well, no, it passes back under the road one more time.
No, it's nowhere. It's not connected to that body of, to that brook that goes through that. That's Narrows Brook. That's an entirely different brook. No, this ends up going out under Route 4, and there's a large wetland. It channels through, there's actually a pond that it goes into, and then it goes out under Route 4 and into Northwood Lake.
Right.
No, that's what I'm looking at. I may have.
All right, I'm gonna try to look at that plan.
Yeah, so it passes under Route 4. The pond that you talked about is on map 109, lot 103. So it passes under Route 4 under Old Turnpike Road from north to south at that lot. It passes under at 215 lot 2 from south to north.
I don't have it in front of me. I'm pulling it up. So you're reading those before I have it on here. Hold on just a minute.
Okay.
I can't tell you the map a lot myself. I mean, for myself, I think my point was taken or made. I can't speak for anybody else.
I understand now, Bob, what your concerns are, and I have to agree that if the water's flowing too fast, it could be an erosion issue. But I think you said it right. Let's see if the engineers think the flow is too fast there, and the videos might help them sort that out.
James, if you look at lot 103, you can see there's a pond there.
Yep.
And then it goes over and under the highway and into Route 4. But it's also on lot 105. Which is, you see the lot 2 where it crosses on the south side,
Yep,
heading
south
west.
to north again.
There's it ponds there as well.
So I think from a layperson's perspective, my initial thought would be the water wouldn't seem to be flowing super fast on the subject lot, lot 102, because the old Turnpike Road is essentially holding it back and limiting the flow. So I think to the extent that there would be a concern, it would be worried about stuff backing up from that crossing on lot 2 as it goes back to the north of Old Turnpike Road, and or whether, you know, those other downstream culverts on 103 and then going under Route 4 would cause that to back up.
Well, I think the concern is the embankment, as Bob said, knowing how Flat Meadow, that whole area along this lot on the south side backs up, and having that impervious road put in there that will be a town road will have issues along that, just that stretch where Flat Meadow could back up.
Okay. Yeah, you all know the land better than I do. So
no. Okay. Anyway, I think we've dealt with that. You know, the applicant knows our concerns in that area, and I think there's if they haven't already come to a solution, they're working on it already. If my point is, you know, if it's an engineering concern, you know, in terms of flow, there's probably a solution out there. You know, do I expect, and I don't think anyone expects you to design for a 500 or 1,000-year flood. Okay. Since we got well sidetracked from that, where else do we stand with the review?
Well, at this point, we've had our peer review, both from the engineering standpoint, the traffic standpoint. If you've read the traffic review, essentially they had made the recommendation or suggestion, maybe you want to close off the access from Route 4. That doesn't work for us, and obviously
right.
We are willing, we can provide a sightline distance as they suggested on lot 1. But as I had mentioned earlier, our sightline distances greatly exceed the minimum requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And, the traffic review also proved out, as our traffic engineer said, the amount of traffic generated by this subdivision just doesn't justify any kind of turning lanes. So I think at this point, if after peer review and after, numerous reviews by you folks, we would like to, proceed. If there's no other concerns that might really change the plans, we'd really like to get our state applications in, both for AOT, and we're already working on our wetlands permit. That's the only other one, and our New Hampshire Department of Transportation permit.
Okay.
And so I guess I'm asking if there's any other concerns. We'd like to hear them now, and if not, then we can pull forward here and come back to the board once we have those permits in place and hopefully get an approval.
Okay. Any questions from the board or town staff?
Bob, I support what you said about doing what the engineers can to make that area more resilient. Seems like it can be addressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that would
look at that.
Yep. Like I said, I might be an alarmist in that case. If there is zero velocity flow along that embankment, then they're not going to have an erosion problem. But my recollection of the video was that there was decent current at that point.
Well, it's right where it makes the sharp right bend, so
right.
Sharp left bend, depending which way you're looking, I guess. So you might expect it.
Okay. Other questions from the board, application or the town staff as far as other items that we need to address? Or anything that, go ahead.
I'd just like James to confirm, when I read through the letter with the answers that they had, it looked to me like they addressed pretty much everything. Did I miss anything on that, James?
Yeah, so I got all of the materials this morning. I was out yesterday. So I haven't had a chance to look through the plan set in great detail. I did have a chance to at least skim through the letter, and nothing stood out to me as a particular concern.
Excuse me, James, let me clarify. It looks to me, going by the letter, that they've addressed any and all issues that we brought up. I understand that you might not have been able to, go one by one where they say, yes, this is updated on the drawing. It's indeed there. I think we can presume that at some point, if they're not, you'll catch that and make sure it is. I was just more referring to the letter itself. I don't recollect anything in the letter that they did not give us an answer that looks satisfactory.
No, I think they've addressed everything that came back as it related to both stormwater and traffic in one way or another. I also think that, to also bring up, there are a couple more easements in place now than were originally proposed. So we are proposing to send that easement language back out for legal review to make sure that the final version is signed off on. But yeah, I think barring sort of bringing some of those things to completion, as a planner, I'm not seeing a great deal of additional information that needs to be brought in. I think that we're getting really close to a point where I would feel comfortable with you rendering a decision. I think from my perspective, what I would want to do before that happens is, again, take one last look through that plan set, to spend some time with it, and then to think about, because I don't think I have written conditions of approval for a town adopted road since I've been here. So I would probably want to sit down with Linda and make sure that if the board is amenable to approving this application, that I've done my diligence in terms of recommending steps and process and all of that to do it right. Hal, you're muted.
Go ahead, Hal.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. We don't want to have any problems downstream that end up being the town's liability. So let's get it done right.
Victoria?
Just a quick question. I noted the peer review talked about a shared driveway, maybe a preferred access. Had there ever been discussion about that? I was just curious as to why he said that. And the applicant said they prefer to have the independent ones, but I just was curious as to what was behind that comment.
If you're asking me, we were surprised by that comment, so I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay.
Sorry for emailing Ms. Sanderson to request the videos in electronic format. Okay. Anything else from the board or town staff? What do we need to do to proceed? Are we at a point where we can, the applicant has enough information to go ahead for the AOT, the other permits? Or Mr. Sargent can answer that if he wants.
I think we are at that point now. I mean, we've already, underway on our wetland permit. I think Naomi's ready to make the AOT permit application. We just wanted to make sure that the board any other issues before we headed down that path and have to change things on the way. So if you guys are happy, we're happy, and we'll make the next step and plan to be back before the board once we have those permits in place. And in the meantime, if James has any other comments after he does more extensive review, we'll address those also.
Al, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to reconfirm, Mark. For me personally, it looks like everything's been addressed, and the overall plan and layout and everything looks right to me. And so, subject to just an item just like Bob brought up, I think you've addressed everything.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you.
Anything else from the board or town staff?
No, so at that point, we would be looking at a continuance date. So, yeah, I guess I could defer to the applicant if they think that, they want to wait until some of those things start to come back. Something that I do like to bring back up in cases where we're talking about state permits. We can require issuance of state permits as a condition of approval. So we don't have to have the permit itself in hand before we act. As a matter of fact, we can't require that the permit be in hand before we act. So if Mark wants to wait until they've submitted, so we can do yep, it's the same thing on what you've submitted as what we're approving, and we can sign off, we can do that. If they choose to ask to wait until they have those permits in hand, they have the right to extend that process. That's sort of up to them.
Is that an answer we need to give you this evening, James, or can we confer,
You don't have to give us the
tomorrow?
whole answer tonight.
Okay.
We can put you on another meeting in the meantime, and you can decide
Okay.
at that point.
I guess let's do that. Let's get us on the next meeting, and then it will give us a chance to confer between all the parties here and decide what's the best way to proceed. And then we'll let you know.
Sounds good.
Okay, the next meeting, it would be, let me pull up my calendar here.
So in August, we currently have the regularly scheduled meetings on the 13th and the 27th.
Right.
And we have already scheduled a special meeting for the 20th.
Let me put that on there.
Who remembers what we have scheduled for the 13th?
It's a regular work session. So any new applications that we get in August,
I don't believe we've scheduled
CIP.
anything for the 13th yet.
I don't think we have any hearings for the 13th, but that would be the CIP and any new applications for the town.
Al, you're muted again.
I remember Joe's pushed out. I don't remember where we left.
I think that was the 20th.
That's the 20th.
Okay. So,
Mark, do you think we can be ready by the 13th? Mark Sargent?
yeah, I just realized I was saying Mark and probably you both were looking.
I guess that would, Diane, do you think you'd have a chance to review that area of concern and maybe have a solution by that time, or should we push it
Now
off?
she's muted too.
Yeah, you're muted.
So hard. Yeah, no, I think that gives us enough time to sort of vet that out and come up with an approach to that. I think we could do that for the 13th.
That's great.
It does be
Okay.
very good to see that other professionals have the same problem with mutes on Zoom meetings as I do on occasion. One of the other hats. Okay, I would entertain it. Oh, sorry, Victoria, go ahead.
Question, as far as the public hearing, was it closed? Would it be opened again? Or are we done with the hearings? I just wasn't sure.
So I think technically the public hearing on this is still open because we've never formally closed it. And I think that how this board has typically handled public hearings is a little bit less formal than some other boards. Bob opens and closes invitations for public input. The speaking times for people But we typically don't formally vote to end the hearing and go into deliberations. That's something that you have the option to do procedurally with any case. And we've talked for some cases about doing that to formalize this is the end of input. So as long as we're still accepting new materials from the applicant, we're still accepting new materials from the public if they're interested in submitting them.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Hal, go ahead.
Yeah, James, I want to just go down through that because I know that you put out between you and Linda what I thought was a pretty good list of how we were going to sequence of events as to how we were going to handle, for example, Aroma Joe's and stuff. And I'm just wondering if you can suggest a similar sequence. So, for example, would it be reasonable to say that this is the end of public input tonight and ask the public to? No, you seem pretty.
If you say this is the end of public input tonight, you can't take anything from anybody, the applicant included.
Oh, so they can't bring in the new information.
Right, they couldn't give you a new plan set and talk through it without re-noticing a public hearing.
Okay. Well, so then at the next meeting, maybe we can do that.
Yeah, so that's the difference between a public meeting and a public hearing under 91A, and a public hearing requires the 10 days notice. So in continuing to a date and time certain, when we say we're continuing this case, what we really mean is we are continuing the public hearing for this case to a date and time certain.
Okay.
So if we were, for example, to close the public hearing tonight and say we're going to go into deliberation, that would mean no new materials could be submitted for your consideration prior to doing that.
Okay.
That would mean that if you then wanted to allow additional input, verbal testimony materials, we would need to reopen the public hearing, which if it wasn't done at the same meeting, would require new notice, 10 days in the newspaper, the whole 9 yards.
So how do we make sure we get the appropriate public input and sort of give these folks a sort of schedule as to the events and when that input's done and when we'll actually deliberate?
So I think for, we've talked about COVID related things and with the Zoom public hearings and how that is changing things. So we've talked about for new applications, potentially definitely having 2 meetings. One where we can open the hearing, explain it, people can watch at home, and then they have time between the meetings to submit things.
Right.
I think that for existing business, particularly business like this, where it has been going on for quite some time, we've seen generally what the same concerns seem to be. There were some concerns related to potential traffic and using the road as a pass through, and there have been quite a few concerns related to Flat Meadow Brook. And we have seen comments and responses and revisions from the applicant that have in some way or another addressed those. So it's one for you as the board to decide whether you share those concerns that were expressed by abutters and or whether the applicant has addressed them to your satisfaction based on your understanding of the site, the proposal, and the regulations that you have to consider this against. I think generally, if we're talking, we need to see that they're submitting to the state for permits. We need to go back over the plan set in detail to make sure that there aren't any minor changes to be made. They're consistent things. We don't need notes added. And we're waiting on the peer review from legal on those that easement language to come back so that we can use all of that for conditions of approval. I think if all of that is done before the next time we hear this case, I would feel comfortable showing a list of recommended conditions of approval to the board, and at that point, letting you deliberate either that night, or if for some reason you didn't feel like you could do it in one meeting, you could at least close the public hearing that night and do deliberations only at a future meeting.
Okay, so what you're saying.
I think realistically, the timeline is, if those things happen before the next meeting, I think we're one meeting out. I think if some of those things happen in a disjointed way, and the applicant still wants to keep that meeting because they want to update you on something, but there's something else that we're waiting on, it may be two.
But from your perspective, you don't believe that we need to follow that, now close it, now wait 10 days more, or any of that stuff? Because this is.
No, I think generally for open business, particularly for things that the public has already had numerous opportunities to comment on, I don't think that we need to set an additional meeting solely for the purpose of getting additional input from the public.
Okay, well, that's what I just check.
In general, my concern is that abutters and members of the public have a reasonable opportunity to comment if they wish to do so. But the public is not entitled to have the last word on every version of the plan and memo submitted. So I think at this point for this case, the driving factor is the timeline of checking off those final boxes, and whether you as the board feel that you have sufficient information to render a decision. I would not suggest for this timeline that we necessarily need to be thinking about the public hearing as the driving factor.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to continue case 18-20 to August 13th.
So moved.
So moved.
One of you gets to be a second.
Okay, I'll be second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Betty Smith, second by Hal Kreider. Discussion on continuing the case. Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Hal? Hal?
Oh, yes. Aye, yay.
Lee?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Victoria?
Yes.
And Bob?
Yes. Okay.
Great.
We'll see
Thanks
you
for
in
your
a couple
time.
weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay. While we're between cases, is there a preference? Why don't we take a 2-minute break? Sorry, Mr. Frankowitz. You have to wait 2 more minutes.
Problem.
Susan, is the case numbering on the agenda correct? Or the official numbering?
20-1 is Scott. 20-2 is
Your one?
Nate. I'm sorry, not the official names, but
Okay, I think
Which
I
one?
screwed up the numbering on my staff reports then.
Oh,
well, I couldn't even remember if we had any, if these were the first cases in 2020.
I think they are.
They are, but I couldn't
They are.
remember. I had to like go back and
Yeah.
look.
Well, yeah, that's,
It was, I think today when I was typing something,
you did swap them, James.
Yeah,
That's
I
okay.
at least sent the correct report to the correct people.
Yes, you
Right,
did.
Scott?
Okay, are we back? Looks like it. Okay. So next up is case 20-1, 131 Winding Hill, Genevieve Rogers, Fred Belanger, applicant. I hope I said that right.
Belanger.
Belanger, okay. I've heard it both ways, but I think thank you for that correction. Mr. Frankowitz, welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you give us a overview?
Okay. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Sure. Lovely to do.
If I can.
A lot easier than holding a piece of foam core up in the meeting room.
It says host disabled
Oh.
screen sharing. So.
Okay, try it now.
See that?
Yes.
So I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Scott Frankos from New Hampshire Land Consultants. Another professional involved with this was Gove Environmental, did all the wetland flagging. It's tax map 228, lots 12 and 13. Lot 12 is a little sliver of land. It's the green line that goes, well, this is proposed. Let me get to existing. This is existing. It's a little sliver that goes along the north side of the property is lot 12. And then the blue is lot 13. Lot 12 is 0.26 acres. Lot 13 was 9.43 acres. Lot 13 included a house that burned down years ago, I guess. It was half standing. There was a barn and a couple of other outbuildings. And there was a septic installed and a well installed at some point, but we couldn't find the approvals through the town or DES. So we had to reapply and get a new septic design. We did the same design, same type of system, but we had to move it a little bit because it was encroaching in the 20-foot setback. So that was redesigned. So on the proposed, what we're proposing is a lot line adjustment, taking the line that separated 12 and 13 along this stone wall, moving it down 226 feet and separating it into two lots. And then this blue here is the remaining land that will go with lot 13. Lot 12 will become 4.55 acres and 13 will be 5.14 acres. We received subdivision approval for the lot under 5 acres because we were making the lot under 5 acres. And that lot 12 has 226 feet of frontage and lot 13 has 305. Like I said too, we did do another septic design or approval for lot 13 and get that approved. And he's been working on that lot. It's got a foundation in it. Tore down all the structures actually that were out there. I thought he was going to leave the barn, but he tore down all the structures. And he's not going to use the same well, but he is using the same septic, just moved on to the lot. This is the approved septic design. That's the town no doubt has a copy of that the state would have sent them.
And that's for lot 13?
As for lot 13, we have not done a design on it yet. It's still until it was approved because it's really not a building lot yet. So they've been doing some.
What you just showed prior to that screen, prior page, whatever. Yeah, approved septic. That's for the existing.
Yes.
Structure that was destroyed. Okay.
Yes. And out there, I drove by today, there is a foundation in this location and the field has been moved and I believe inspected by the state and approved in its location. And that's about the whole application. And I did get James' review. There is a couple, we changed some wording and then he mentions installing monuments and stuff, which we will do once it's approved and ready for approval.
Yep. And just out of curiosity, where you have the note formally at the top of the screen now, formally text 228, is that as in prior tense or is that formally?
Yeah, it's what, we should probably not have this on this plan, but
okay,
it is what was
that would work
the
too.
Existing conditions.
Yep. Okay. Questions from the board? Don't all speak at once. Okay, I will admit, Mr. Frankowitz, I was out, we biked down Winding Hill Road and I saw the structures coming down and I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah.
And then saw the application in front of me, so it was good.
Yeah,
Good timing.
and as you know, this was submitted back in
Sure.
March. And,
Definitely.
so he wanted to get moving along, so he started construction on the
Yep.
the original lot.
I didn't say that as a complaint. Don't think
Yep.
that. That's not my right. Okay. Hearing no comments from the board, anything from town staff?
So Scott, just to clarify what's been received, what we should have, so there is already a building permit out for what is and will continue to be lot 13 for a structure, but we also should already have that state septic as well.
Yeah,
For the
that was
new approved septic.
for lot 13. Yeah, it was approved back in March.
Okay,
The
so if
town-
we still had the standard condition of approval, state septic design will be provided prior to issuance of a building permit. Lot 13 is covered because we already have the building permit out to you and we already have the state septic into us.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. I think what I'll do now is go over how I'd like to, how we've been discussing to formally hold public hearings in a electronic, format. So going over the staff report, public hearing, item number 3. So the recommendation is to do like we're doing now, essentially have the applicant speak, board questions, as we normally do. And actually we should go in now that Mr. Frankowitz had a chance to speak. I would entertain a motion to accept the application as complete.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Betty Smith, second by Ms. Lee Baldwin. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll roll call vote, please, Susan.
Betty,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Victoria,
Yes.
Hal,
Yes.
and Bob.
Yes. Okay, so I will formally open case 20-1. I'm out of habit. Get the abutters list up.
Done this in a while.
I haven't done this in a while. That's why I'm out of habit.
No, it's-
Where's the?
Did that get included with what was sent out?
Mine's blank.
Yeah, mine is
um,
blank as well.
If you go to the third page of the plan set, they're on that.
Oh,
You have the paper plan set?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There we are. Okay, that's easier. Thank you. The joys of screen sharing. Except you're going to have to scroll for me as I read them. At this point, I will try to think how we'll do this. If I'll read the abutters list. Normally, I ask you to raise your hand and say something if you are present in the meeting.
So I
think-
think that if you're planning to read through the abutters list, now would be a good time to invite people who are wishing to speak on this to unmute themselves. And
Right.
when they hear their name called, indicate that they're here and they wish to speak.
Yes.
And either you or Susan make a list. Once we reach the end of the abutters list, I'd suggest then asking if there's anybody else present to speak
Exactly.
for this case. They identify themselves, you add their names to the bottom of the list, and then you call on people sequentially to sort of organize who has the mic, so to speak.
Okay. It's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to do it.
Yep.
Just gotta get in the habit. Okay. So at this point in time, I will read the abutters list. If you are present in the meeting and wish to speak, please, as James said, unmute yourself. And when I call your name, just get my attention by saying, I'd like to speak or something to that effect. Harry Graves of Northwood, State of New Hampshire from Concord. Gary and Kim Bates of Chichester. The Averill Family Revocable Trust, Christine Averill of Averill of Dunbarton. Richard and Shannon Wiltshire of Northwood. Jessica Hansen and Cody Leach of Northwood. Okay. At this time, if you are a member of the public and you would like to speak on this application, please, one at a time, state your name so I can write it down. I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you. Could you repeat that? Going once, going again. Okay. Thank you, Scott, for Mr. Frankowitz for your electronic participation. It helps. Okay. What I'd like to do at this point is go over how we will handle public hearing for a new case in an electronic meeting format. We'll have essentially two meetings. The first one is tonight. We'll go have an overview of the application from the applicant. I've read the abutters list. We have no one who wishes to speak from an abutter. We'll accept the application. We'll open the public hearing. This public hearing is, I believe I opened the public hearing already. I know we found it complete. We'll have any testimony from the abutters and tenants and any response from the applicant. We don't have any abutters who wish to speak at this point in time. And we don't have a member of the public present tonight who wishes to speak.
Bob,
Yes, go ahead.
something that I did not put in my staff report, but we said we were going to start doing at the tail end of last year is formally making a declaration of no regional impact.
Yes.
And I would suggest that that's something that we can do tonight. Yeah, as a staff member, I don't see this rising to that level in any way. It's taking a lot that's about 20 feet wide and making it wide enough to put one house on.
Right.
So yeah, we do recommend, since regional planning commissions are tasked with responding to those, that boards make a formal determination one way or the other, ideally as soon as possible after accepting it as complete, so that if it's declared a regional impact, we have time to respond.
Right. Do you need a formal motion to that effect?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion that this application does not represent an application of regional significance.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
So motion by Ms. Betty Smith, second by Ms. Lee Baldwin. Discussion? Hearing none. Susan will take a roll call vote, please.
Lee,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
Victoria,
Yes.
Eddie,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I guess I need to watch how I phrase the motions as well to make sure that you're not voting yes on a negative. Or you're voting, a yes means that you're in assent to the motion. Anyway, okay, we did that. We now, Scott, Mr. Frankowitz gave us a chance, an overview of that. The next part of the process is mainly for the public to give the board a chance to receive public input. We'll continue to date and time. And as per any our 10-day and Tuesdays plan, we'll accept public comment in the following manner. Any board requested information or from the applicant is due to the town by close of business, which I think is what, 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
Pardon me?
4 p.m.
4 p.m., 10 days before the next hearing. And public comment, preferably in written format, is due by 4 p.m. on the Tuesday before the hearing. That'll give the public a chance to review any further information from the application or from the applicant that has been sent to town hall, and gives the board a chance to get to collate both before we actually hear the case on our typical meeting of Thursdays. So at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to continue case 20-1 to a date and time certain, which at this point, since we don't have anything on August 13th formally scheduled, I would propose continuing to that evening.
So
We
moved.
do now, but
Well, we do
yes.
now, but yes. But I think we can accommodate 2 hearings in one evening. So motion from Ms. Betty Smith to continue this case to August 13th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Ms.
If I can
Yes.
interrupt for a minute, maybe I missed it, but did the board have an opportunity to ask questions before you continue? Or bring up any matters that might?
I thought I asked that.
Yeah, you did ask, yep.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I didn't hear it.
Okay,
I just wanted to make sure if there was anything that needed to be brought forward by the applicant or the applicant's representative or the public, that they would,
Yep.
it would be on the table tonight so as to not delay.
Exactly. Exactly. There's nothing I saw that flagged on this, but it's not just me, and I'm going over James's staff review, and I'm not seeing anything significant from that out of the ordinary. And there was nothing that I saw that I more information that I wanted. But okay, discussion on the continuance to August 13th. Hearing none. Susan can do a roll call vote, please.
Lee,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Victoria,
Yes,
Al,
Yes.
and Bob.
Yes. Okay. So I think, Scott, if you can stop sharing your screen, if you wouldn't mind. Unless you have stuff you need further you want to show us.
I do have just one question though.
Sure.
We haven't been able to submit paper copies to the town in the last 4 months. Are we doing that now or just electronic? I never delivered paper plans for this project to the town.
I
Well,
mean,
I've
I
gotta
printed
have-
stuff out. Yeah.
I've got stuff I have to sign something,
Right, but
assuming it's approved, but
for the resubmittal, do we deliver paper plans or just electronic? The Mylar, obviously, we have to bring, but.
I don't mind if you drop it off on a day that I'm there.
Okay,
We definitely will need paper plans for the file.
right. Okay.
okay.
And just
You can
to,
just email me and let me know when you're coming. Or
Yep.
when you want to come.
Typically, at the end, it's a Mylar and 3 paper plan sets.
okay. So we'll see you on the 13th then.
Thank you.
And that'll give, obviously, we'll get we didn't request any information from the applicant, so that'll, I don't think you need to add, there's nothing you needed to add, nothing requested to add to the file. The case information will be available for members of the public to review at Town Hall. And then again, if there's anyone who wants to comment on this case that needs to be received by the town, you can email to anyone at town staff, send a
Yeah,
letter, however you
I
want to do
think,
it.
Bob, we'd prefer email than
Yes.
readily available at town hall.
Yep.
So that we can make sure, we can definitely get people a copy. But we don't want people to assume that they're just going to be able to walk in. That depends on the status of the building.
Correct. Well, I was thinking a postal letter, I should have said.
Is the town hall open now?
Say that again?
No, it is not.
Okay. And we'll see you on the 13th then.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is case 20-20. Sorry, 20-2. It's not that late. Property Entrepreneurs of LLC, 99 Lakeshore Drive.
Bob,
Yes,
I'm going to recuse myself for this application.
okay,
I live in that neighborhood and my partner Charlie is in a butter.
okay,
I'll see you guys later.
okay. Thank you.
You bet.
So voting designation then for this case will be Strobel, Kreider, Baldwin, and Smith. Okay, first up, let me get my procedures up here. Okay. Board members who are here, you've had a chance to review this. I would entertain a motion for completeness.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Betty Smith, second by Mr. Kreider. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Lee,
What?
Lee,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes. Okay, so I will open case 20-2, 99 Lakeshore Drive, Property Entrepreneurs LLC. We have 3 members. Why don't you introduce yourselves? Or at
I'm
least
Nick
the applicant.
Turmel. I'm Nicholas Turmel. I'm the managing partner of Property Entrepreneurs LLC that has the 99 Lakeshore Drive Northwood property that we're speaking about tonight. And then also in attendance that will be helping to co-present is my real estate attorney, Simon Lehman from Freddie Flaherty, and also the surveyor engineer, Dan Mullen from Richard D. Bartlett and Associates. And I'm gonna start us off first, and then we'll go in order from there, and hopefully we can answer everybody's questions in great detail, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you. Susan, would you mind changing his name from Galaxy Note 9 to Nick Turmel? Just so it's easy for all of us. Thank you.
Is that right? Turmell.
Turmel.
1 L.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. You
Go
ready
ahead.
for me?
Go right ahead.
So I just wanted to start off thanking a couple people like Susan, Linda, some of the other people at the town offices, since myself and my investor partner had purchased this place. We closed back in January, and the town's been helpful with a lot of questions and everything when they were still open, of course, and then that converted over to via emails after the shutdown. And I've always enjoyed Northwood. I just want to say, I visited my cousin there. He started his family there about 22 years ago. Jay Turmel Tree Service there in town. So I got to know the town over the decades and everything, visiting him and seeing how it's grown. And, it's changed a lot. I like that Northwood Brewery and the Johnson Seafood and Steakhouse, as I'm sure most people do. And that was nice to try out a bunch of times. But anyways, I just wanted to end up letting you know a little bit about myself. I've been a realtor for 19 years. I've helped countless clients do this. I have a lot of investor clients over the decades that I consult with, and developers and everything. So this time I'm doing it for myself with a repeat investor client of mine that I partnered up with. And I just want to end up dispelling there's no 20-foot story skyscraper condos and casino on the water being built there. There's nothing being built there whatsoever. It's simply just changing the use of the current property. I mean, the ownership. It's currently a 3-unit, technically a multifamily, even though it's 3 detached units, so they look like houses. that are on the same land lot. Nothing's being subdivided for the land. The 3 units are simply going to share the land themselves. What's changing, what we're proposing to change, if everybody is for it, is we're simply changing from one owner, one deed owning all 3 units, to changing it to 3 separate units, condexes, detached condos, no condo fees or anything like that, unless, you know, the unit owners vote for that down the road. Whoever buys it within their own condo bylaws and amendments and rules and regs, they could do so. However, sticking with what we're doing here, it's 3 separate condexes. They'll share the land. So it's been tenants that were there right up until we closed on it. Everybody moved out late December. We closed on it January 2nd. And what we done is we renovated the places inside. They're beautiful cosmetically. And we're just wrapping up with a couple little touch-ups and some professional cleaning this weekend. And so we'll have some pictures that we can share publicly when we have the professional picture company get out there next week. And we'll have the 3D interactive tour in 8K super high def. And so it's like walking through it yourself without having to actually step foot in the place, and nice drone shots and everything. So people really have a good lay of the land in between now and the next meeting that we're up. I could end up sending that over to the town. Obviously, I'm not going live in MLS with that, but I could send over links and pics to the town that, you know, I give permission for people to be able to see if there's some type of format. But getting back on track, basically, this is, nothing's changed. So it's 3 residential units. It's staying 3 residential units. There's just going to be 3 separate unit owners for the individual condexes, unless there's a buyer that happens to want 2 or 3 of them, then obviously that's up to them. So with that being said, generally speaking, from a real estate standpoint, being a abutter to multifamily usually doesn't have as much attraction, as much value compared to, say, like a condo that's owned by an individual unit owner that's probably going to owner occupy the place themselves. That usually has more appeal. So in the process of condexing and having these brand new renovated places, it's going to help boost everybody's market value for abutters. And I want to say the next best investment, if this wouldn't go through, would be somebody doing weekly rentals for all 3 units during the summertime to capitalize on that, and then just get somebody in there off peak. But with that being said, that's usually not going to be as user friendly, so to say, for owner occupied abutters. If somebody's coming there with a point of having vacation, having fun with their families and friends, you know, they might be just, it's, you know, out on their boats and, you know, having a barbecue and all that stuff. So I think that abutters would see the advantage in having their values boosted, and also by having people that are going to be owner occupied occupants most likely over there. I mean, if they want to rent it out, they can do it. But what we propose to put in place initially from the beginning is if somebody did buy it as an investment, they couldn't rent it out weekly. They would have to do it monthly. So speaking, you know, they could end up doing a 1-year lease, but if they wanted to rent it out, they couldn't do weekly. So it's not like somebody coming in, having a party for a week and then taking off. So long story short, it'll be a more better quality of life, more enjoyable, I want to say, for abutters by having owner occupants over there, as opposed to tenants and somebody that would repurchase it off of us that might want to get the best bang for the buck. If they're buying it as a multifamily and they're going to rent it out probably for, you know, increased values during the summer months. So with that being said, what we're proposing is simply subdividing it into condexes. You don't know, but most likely it'd probably be unit owner occupants that would be purchasing it. So that will overall help the value compared to its current status, which is technically a 3-unit multifamily that people usually rent out to tenants.
Okay.
But nothing has changed. The bigger lake house right on the lake, that one's a 3-bedroom on town record. It's remaining a 3-bedroom. That's not being subdivided. There's no expansion. There's nothing being built over there. The middle unit, the small baby one, that one's a 2-bedroom on town record, remains a 2-bedroom. Nothing's changed for floor plans. The street side house, that's a middle-sized one. And again, that's a 2-bedroom. If somebody wanted to use that office den as an office and, you know, spare bedroom with a futon, that's up to them, but it'll be advertised as a 2-bedroom. It's on town record as a 2-bedroom. So literally nothing is changing at all. So I just didn't want anybody to be scared off or turned off or have any type of misconceived notion on what's going on over there. There's nothing being built for extra units, nothing being expanded. It's the same existing septic and well, which my surveyor will end up getting into a little bit more detail on his end when he's up. So everything's literally staying the same. There's nothing changing over there at all. And the land's not being subdivided. And I know that my surveyor is going to end up touching on the subject, but the driveway is not being physically changed at all. The existing driveway, which everybody can see driving by the road, since this is parallel to the road itself, it's the paved driveway portion, and it goes pretty much directly from my lot line to my lot line, just about. So it's roughly around 145 feet wide, give or take. I don't have that right in front of me as far as a paved stretch of the driveway. So I think it was just maybe a correction or adjustment technically on a survey in regards to the driveway adjustment. And then I also wanted to mention about the proposed waiver. I know Charles Brown next door, I got the opportunity to end up meeting him and talking with him for a while as he's friends with my cousin there. So I got to meet him and a couple of other neighbors while I've been up there, meeting with contractors, doing work around the place. But anyways, what I was telling him is that you know, nothing's changing over there. And I told a couple of other neighbors that, but actually I'm getting a little off track here. What I wanted to mention is that the proposal for waiving having to get extra septic and well and locations for abutters within 100 yards, is it? Or is it 100 feet? Again, my surveyor will end up touching up on that, but there's a lot of smaller lots over there where it's on the water. So there's a lot of, you know, bungalow sized places. And if you really go out 100 yards, you're basically getting into dozens of properties, and there's nothing changing with our well or septic. I don't know what the neighbors are doing, but you know, this is pertaining to our property for what we're talking about tonight. But if there's nothing changing with their well and septic, and there's nothing changing with the buildings, there's nothing being built, it's a moot point, basically, because there's nothing changing at all. So besides simply the request for the condex of ownership, which again helps everybody and boosts everybody. But I believe that's it for me. Just taking a look at some points I have here, and yeah, I'll turn it over to Simon Lehman.
Actually, I think what I'll do, if you don't mind, is before it gets to be too late, because we do still have some, I guess, one member of the public here.
Mm-hmm.
And for the record, I'll read the abutters list. And if there is an abutter present, please unmute yourself, state your name and if you'd like to speak. And then I'll reiterate, like we did for the prior case, the meeting procedures to be able to incorporate public comment. I have Joel Pickering and Kelly Sheehan of Northwood. David Elliott of Northwood. Charles Brown of Northwood. I might butcher this last name. James and Dinesh Mountsie of Concord. Wendy Kelly of Northwood. And Robert O'Connor of Northwood. Okay. I have not heard any response from any of those names, but to reiterate the procedure.
Are there other members of the public wishing to speak?
Thank you. Are there other members of the public who would wish to speak on this case tonight? Okay, hearing none. Thank you. The way we'll handle this, there will be 2 meetings. We'll hear presentation from the applicant, any abutters who are present, which there are currently none, and any members of the public who are present who would like to speak. We'd hear that tonight. Then we will continue the case to a next meeting. Yes, date to be yet to be determined. The public hearing will still be open. We will have any additional information from the requested of the applicant due to the town 10 days, no later than 10 days before the continuance date, which is typically Monday at 4 p.m. That will be in the public record. Any member of the public or an abutter who would like to comment on this case before the next meeting should do so in writing, preferably email, by Tuesday, 4 p.m. before the continuance date. At that time, we'll take any final comments from abutters and any responses from the applicant. Okay. Last part of the process is to continue the case, so we can't set that date as yet. But I'll turn it back over to Mr. Turmel to introduce his team.
Yep.
Or whoever will speak next.
Yeah, I believe Simon Lehman, my real estate attorneys, going next, just to end up answering and or reiterating in more detail anything in regards to the conduct and process.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Simon Leeming with Brady Flaherty in Concord. And just pick up from what Nick said, this is a condominium that's being proposed. I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence, but under 356B, a condominium consists of discrete units and then a common area, and quite often, and including in this case, a limited common area. Unit owners own the units, and the unit owners in common own the common area, and a limited common area is part of the common area, but only accessible by the particular unit, which is surrounded by the limited common area. The condominium is named Northwood Lakefront Condominium, and I have previously submitted to the board, and I pick up with what Nick said. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, James. We've done a lot of back and forth with both of you and appreciate it. The 3 units as shown on the plan, which Dan Mullen will go over, units 99.1, 99.2, and 99.3. And even though they are of different square footage, under the condominium documents that I've submitted, each unit will have a 1/3 interest in the common area. In other words, they will co-own a 1/3 interest, and they will each unit will have 1 vote. The units are single family units. The owner is responsible for the unit, which consists of the, from the exterior shell, roof side, and from the under the slab. All that's inside that is the unit. The units are surrounded by limited common areas where typically the unit owner can landscape. As has been mentioned, there's a common well, existing septic system, and parking as shown on the plan. We did put a great deal of thought into the plan. There's a dock, and the dock itself is subject to the rules of the association, and the association, of course, is formed from the 3 unit owners. Initially, the developer will own all 3 until the units are sold, as indicated, one at a time, or in 2, or all together. But the common expenses will be determined by the association. The association will detail such things as what the rules are for pets and the rules are for the use of other areas within the common area. They will create the budget, determine the assessments, provide the insurance, and the condominium can only be amended with a 67% vote of the members, which means where there's 3, it would have to be unanimous. So that really covers what I have to say. And I note from the planner's report that these will probably be submitted. My condo documents will be submitted for legal review, and I'm happy to discuss those, of course, with counsel for the town, should it be referred to town council. So thank you very much. And I think it's appropriate, unless you have any questions, to turn it over to Dan so he can then discuss the site plan and the floor plans, which together consist of the bounds and meets and everything of the condominium. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
You're a little faint.
Just barely.
Hey, Bob, could I ask a question first of legal counsel, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Nick, maybe I misunderstood. And I have to say, I went through the write-up once very quickly, and maybe I missed it. Are there restrictions in terms of how long people can rent, or excuse me, how long they have to rent, a minimum amount of time if they rent out the property?
Well, we are, I believe Simon put in the paperwork for what he's proposing, that if they're not owner occupying it, that the minimum they could rent it out would be a month, where right now we could rent it out weekly. And if, this doesn't get divided, whoever buys it next could rent it out weekly. Because that's where the most money would be during the summertime, of course, if, so with that being said, this makes it so it'd only be monthly. However, if once it's all separately owned by the next buyers, they make up the board of directors. If they vote to end up changing that, they could end up doing so if they wanted to.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because it's an association agreement.
Yeah, it's still just a regular property at the end of the day, so it's nothing. Because I mean, obviously that complies with the town anyway, but it's it's really up to them at the end of the day if they want to purchase a condo to end up renting out. Maybe some people do, I don't know, maybe it's a second home and people have family and friends that go up there and they use it themselves, like some of the other properties there.
But essentially it is ultimately under control of the association or the board.
Okay, so we just need to keep that in mind. Okay.
If I could follow up with a question, I didn't see anything in there about a month.
Yeah, well, I didn't see it either, and maybe I just missed it, but I admit I went through it quickly.
Oh, I went through quickly, but I didn't see it. But so there essentially is nothing to say that someone could buy one and rent it out on a daily basis through the internet.
So to address the month, I agree with you. I didn't put that in. But that's something that certainly can be established as in the initial bylaws. As far as I assume you're talking about some sort of Airbnb type situation that you're concerned about, and that's really a town decision, I would say. But the board right now, as I said, would have control, and initially the developer would have control.
Yeah, the only reason I brought it up was I thought Nick mentioned it, and he was using that as part of the explanation that would help the property values by limiting the term of the rental to a month or more. So if it's not in there, that's fine too, because you're absolutely right. I don't think there's a requirement that it be in there. But that might be part of what we factor into our deliberations.
Yep. And as well as Attorney Lehman has stated, or Mr. Termel stated, that can be changed by the association.
Correct.
So
yeah, you never know what somebody's usage is going to be, but if one or two of the people plan on owner occupying it for the majority of the year, they might not want one of the unit owners to be able to basically buy it as an investment and just have whoever showing up there for a week or a couple days at a time. So they would probably vote that change down. So I mean, we could certainly put that in. Simon, correct? We could end up adding that in.
Right now, I mentioned an amendment to take 67%, but a board vote is a majority, so that two unit owners can determine what the rental procedures and the rental rules are. I leave it up to Nick as to far as what he might be agreeable to if the board wants to address that. We always prefer on behalf of developers to keep the options open. Markets change, as we know from this year, but it is a 2-unit vote in order to determine whatever the rental rules are.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily arguing one way or the other. I just want to know what's in there, and then that's what we base our decision on.
Yes, absolutely.
As long as we're clear, and like I said, I thought I heard Nick say something about a month, but I couldn't find it. And if it's not in there, that's fine. Leave it the way you want it, and then that's what we work with.
Yeah,
I think that's up to you guys. And we understand all the things you're saying. Or at least I think we do.
Thank you.
I do.
okay.
So yeah, I wanted to say something really quick. So first of all, the issue of short-term rental is different from the issue of ownership, and I think that that's something that it is. The issue of short-term rental is something that we would realistically need to address the same way, regardless of whether it was owned in common between all 3 units or whether it was condexed. But I also wanted to say that I'm seeing that somebody who's identified on the Zoom meeting as Tommy has put a few things into the chat. And so I wanted to call that out because this is the first time that we are doing a Zoom meeting, but I would also suggest that chat things that people may or may not be able to see are kind of hard to get into the public record. So Mr. Chair, if Tommy wants to have an opportunity for input at this meeting, I would suggest reopening the public hearing to get some verbal comments in. Otherwise, I don't know if there's a way for us to disable chat on future meetings or something, but I wouldn't want somebody to assume that because they had put something into the chat that we'd necessarily see that and take it into account. So this is me hopefully speaking to everybody in Northwood watching on YouTube, saying if you want to comment, please do so.
Well,
In a way that all the board members are guaranteed to hear it.
Exactly.
And not to advise the board, but obviously your role is to keep a complete record, and
Correct.
the chat is a very difficult way to keep a complete record. So I think that's a very good point.
Well, based on
I get a
Tommy's,
copy of it, so.
yeah, you get a copy of it. Based on Tommy's last comment and putting 2 and 2 together, this would be the abutter is Wendy Kelly. So I would ask again that why don't we, Tommy and Ms. Kelly, if you have something to say, I'll give you an opportunity. Let me get Mr. Mullen to get his piece in, and then we'll give you an opportunity to speak after that.
Just real quick, I just want to reiterate its current use as multifamily, and I believe a lot of people over there do rent out places weekly. So that's already able to happen over there, if I'm not mistaken, correct? And it is happening over there, I thought, with some of the people renting out places weekly over there, whether it's friends, family, or what have you.
No,
Currently, we do not have a specific zoning category for short-term rental.
Yeah.
So that's not something that we currently have the regulations to deal with specifically.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is if weekly rentals can already happen over there, what we're doing, we can end up adding in that month. I could have Simon added up that month. And when we went over this was all presented back in April. So I thought, it was in there. That's why I was misspoke about it, because it was 3 months ago when, the condominium paperwork was submitted, and maybe about 4 months when we were going over everything. And I know we discussed that, so I thought that was possibly in there, but I have no problem putting that in there. But again, 2/3 of the vote, they could end up overturning that if they wanted to, providing that it's actually zoned that way where everybody in the neighborhood can do it.
Yeah, I was just asking that you clarify, because you had said one thing in the document, said something else. Whichever way you decide to play it is fine. It just should be consistent.
Yeah. I think we want to have Dan proceed, because I know the hour's getting late and we've been on this issue for a while. I don't want to. Do you want to hear from Dan, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I would, please.
Are you ready to hear me clearly? Hello? Is there a lot of feedback?
No.
A little bit.
I'm getting a lot of feedback.
How about now?
That's better.
Okay. Well, touching on some of the comments we got, there was a mention of the designation of not yet complete on the buildings. That referred to the interior portions. As a surveyor, to comply with 356B, we have to put the status of each building. And when we did the survey, at the time of survey, they just started renovation, so they were not yet complete. So I'm going to put some notes on the plan to designate all the buildings as existing and now are complete. So that will squash that issue. And then going to other comments related to the waivers that we're looking at. Nick already touched on the one about getting all the wells and the septics within 100 feet of the site. And again, like he said, it was a moot point because they're not changing a thing, and it would affect, 8 to 9 to 10 properties. And it's a little bit obtrusive to those neighbors for us to go in there, find their wells, find their septics, do all the location work. And it really wouldn't enhance the application any to do
Hey,
that.
Bob, I'm having trouble hearing this.
Yeah, it's a bit muddled.
I'm sorry.
But I think that, well, that's joys of joys of communications.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And
can,
I'm having trouble reading his lips because they aren't in sync with the sound.
yep, let me, go ahead.
I think on that waiver, I think what Dan is saying is that firstly, the rule is typically for when there's some sort of new septic system. And here we have an existing septic system, which won't affect anybody. So to go out and do all the extra field work would not make any sense because it doesn't really affect the outcome whatsoever. It is what's on the ground as far as septic and well is already there. So that's the basis for that waiver.
Okay. Understood. Thank you for stating that.
And there are, I believe, I'm just looking for it because there are a couple of other waivers, which I'm trying to locate, sorry. Do you want me to address those?
I have you as requesting 2 waivers.
Yeah, I have.
The 100 foot web buildings, wells and septic systems, 100 foot, section 410B4, and then section 410E, not to show the elevation of the 100-year floodplain.
Which is, if you look at the letter, Dan's letter is self-explanatory. We can't locate it because FEMA hasn't determined it. So that's the basis for that second waiver.
Okay.
And recognizing that it's very hard to hear Dan, if there are any other questions on the plan that I can address, I'd be happy to do so. But I think we've fairly well covered, what the issues are and how the plan relates to the whole condominium itself.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. So any questions from the board for any of the application team?
Cool.
Go ahead, Al.
I'm having a little trouble figuring out where the parking is. I just want to make sure I understand. I see where it's labeled Lakeshore Drive and 50-foot right of way. It's not clear to me where the road is versus where the parking is and where that 50-foot right of way is relative to where the parking is. Can you clarify that, please?
If you'd like, if you have an electronic version of this of the plans, Susan can allow you to share your screen if that helps.
I'm working with the paper copy.
No, I know, but I was thinking more of the application team. I don't have a copy of
Oh, I don't have
the
it.
plan electronic.
Do you want to take a shot, Dan?
I don't have it ready for that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So
it was worth a shot.
Yeah.
I think I have it electronically.
Huh. Okay.
Okay, James
Is
has
that
it.
working?
James does. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Is that zoomed in too much?
That's better.
Yeah, so my question has to do with the parking area and the dotted lines that look like it's tracking Lakeshore Drive. So is part of the parking actually in the right of way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, as I understand it, and Dan will correct me, it's not in the used part, the driven part of the right of way, but it is technically a portion of it, as you see, is in the right of way. And that's how the property has been used prior to this application.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if there's anything, I don't know if that's even something that we are expected to address? Because I'm looking, I think there's mailboxes up there further that are further into the road. Is that correct? What's off to the left of the screen? The parking area is there, and then right there. Thank you. What's that?
Those are mailboxes.
Yes, okay. Then I think my question's a moot point then.
Okay. I think part of the
The mailboxes are further in the road than the parking is, so.
I think part of the questioner comes in that the solid line just above Lakeshore Drive, 50-foot right-of-way that crosses the dashed 524 elevation line is unclear as to whether that, I think my suspicion is that is indicates the edge of pavement.
It does.
In that, but it doesn't, the drawing doesn't indicate whether that's the edge of the drop off or the far side of the pavement from the application.
Yeah, but I see up and to the right, I see where it looks like the edge of the pavement is, where it makes that sharp angle coming.
Yeah, that is the edge of the
That's the edge of,
parking area is in the paved area.
yeah, right there where you have your arrow. I assume that corner is where the road really is. Is that correct?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that
would be approximately the traveled way.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, that's the travel lane there. Okay, so the parking is in the right of way, but it's off the beaten path, so to speak.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to see from plans?
Actually, Bob, I do have one other question, and it's just a minor question. It doesn't really affect anything, I don't think. But the outline of the building closest to the road does not match the outline of what's drawn on your interior drawings. Is there a deck or something else there?
Oh, yeah, there's a bump out.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring
Bump out to the left of where it says gas meter.
Whereas house number 99-2, first floor, I don't see anything like that. Again, not that it really matters that much, but I was just curious if something's changed there.
I think Dan or Nick would have to address that.
Right. Those floor plans are the interior walls of the building.
Yep.
Say that again. Can you understand it, Bob?
I understood it. The floor plan, the sheet that's shared now is the interior walls of the building.
Oh, just interior. Okay. There's other stuff outside that's exterior. Okay.
And that would make sense if the bump out shown on the plot is off of the living room. So my suspicion is it's a deck.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually been on the property, so don't take my word for it.
Yeah,
And that was,
actually
what's the pull box?
Sorry, say again, Hal?
There's a pull box. It's labeled right there in the sort of in the middle. It's a circle, and then it says pull box. I don't know what that is. Again, just curious. Right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's labeled pull box.
No, I think that's to the left.
Yeah, that's the pull box.
Oh.
The circle is a pump station for the septic.
Oh.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Other questions?
Questions from others? Okay. Thank you for that.
Tommy is trying to get Colin. So
And he's unable to do so, or is
we
trying
just
to?
gave him the number.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So-
just a minute ago.
It got cut off, not to interrupt, but was that question answered? I heard something about asking
there
if
he is.
something on the deck or
Yeah.
something on the survey. Was that question answered or not?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so, yeah. We're just trying to make sure we understand everything on the drawings.
Okay. And thank you, Mr. Turmel, for answering the chat. What I'll do for now, so that it's in the record in more than one way, is read that comment and it is currently zoned in that area that there are no rental restrictions, meaning anyone on that road can rent out weekly if they wanted to. My point, Mr. Turmel's point, is keeping it at its current status. A one owner, 3-unit multifamily will have an investor wanting to get the most revenue, which would most likely have them renting weekly during summer, which is allowed for that neighborhood. Approving the Condex as 3 owners instead of tenants unless they decide to rent it out. And Tommy is having difficulties getting in.
Could you look at
let me-
that number, Susan, again? Make sure I put it up there right. 592852.
492-852.
492.
Oh, yeah. 929-205-6099. I maybe you don't need to dial the 9. I mean, the 1, I'm sorry.
Not from a cell phone, no.
No, he's trying to get in on the phone, on his,
Yeah.
on his phone so he can.
Eddie, did you just do the one tap? Is that how you called in?
I dialed it out on the phone.
You have to
Okay.
actually dial it in. You can't do it
Okay.
any other way. I've done it both ways.
Yes.
Can you type or repeat what that number was that you dialed in?
The phone number.
Sorry, you're
I
the
think I
only
can
one on
get
the
it.
phone.
I got 1-929-205-6099.
Okay. And did you have to put a passcode in?
Yes, I had to
Once-
put the meeting code and then the passcode in.
Correct.
Oh, the meeting code. That's what I missed.
Yes.
Okay. The meeting code is, hold on.
I have it
The
right here.
meeting, oh,
Go
you
ahead.
have it.
I'm typing it in the chat. If you speak, if you talk.
915-8976-1837. I don't know if it worked or not.
I'm just repeating what Susan has said. Assuming I can type. Okay. Technical difficulties, and just for the applicant's awareness, my day job, I'm the IT department at a school, so I have a tendency to try to help. Sorry.
Okay. I think he's coming in.
Yes. Okay. I
Tommy?
believe, Tommy, are you at the 440-3596 number?
Yes.
Okay. Would you mind stating your full name then for us?
Thomas and Wendy Cifelli.
I'm formerly Wendy Kelly.
She's formerly Wendy Kelly.
Thank you. And you are, I believe you are a butters as well at 104 Lakeshore.
Yeah, we're right across the street.
Okay. Could you spell your
And,
last name?
nobody rents here weekly. Nobody around here.
Would you mind spelling your last name?
CIF is in Frank. ELLI.
Thank you.
I knew that for some reason.
Okay. I didn't want to guess. Okay. As I stated before, and thank you for your chats and your patience in connecting up with us. Do we have anything more from the applicant that you would like to speak in your intro or presentation, however you want to refer to it?
The only thing we're concerned about, obviously, like he
Well,
said, is
hang on 1 second. Let me give the applicant a chance to speak first.
I
Finish out here, there, Pete.
I believe we've covered what we want to cover.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so to the Cifelli abutters, if you'd like to speak now, you're welcome to do so. And if you have questions of the applicant, please phrase them to me.
the only thing we wanted to chime in on is obviously week-to-week rental would not be something we would want to see happen over there. I understand that the way it's set up, he's allowed to do that, and hopefully that won't happen. But that's the only concern we have, is we would not want that to be an Airbnb situation with people in and out of there constantly.
Correct, and that's not the plan. The plan's to condex it and sell it off to individual unit owners. Keeping it a multifamily, somebody's gonna have to recoup their money back, which means maximizing the investment, which means getting the
So
most for
public
it.
hearing is not an opportunity for immediate back and forth. We want all comments one way, we'll end it, and then all comments and responses can go back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Nick has pretty comprehensively explained what his position is, so we should, move on.
Okay. Okay. Anything else from the Cifellis at this point?
No, we're
Okay.
just listening to learn what we can.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Questions from the board? Questions from town staff?
I have a question.
Sure.
Are you going to take up whether or not to send the documents to the town's attorney for review?
Question, is that a question for me, or is it a question for or the board,
It's a
or?
question for the board.
Okay.
My suggestion would be that you make that decision tonight.
Yes.
Because then it could be sent off in the works while we're waiting for the second meeting and additional input, rather than waiting for that point to send something out.
Okay. Is the board interested in bringing that up now? I'd entertain a motion if so, or you can bring it up, bring up the motion, then we could discuss it if need be.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Betty Smith, second by Ms. Lee Baldwin, to refer the declaration of condominium of Northwood Lakefront condominium document to town legal counsel for review. Discussion on doing so.
At the owner's expense.
Yes, correct. I was about to say that.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep, sure. And I know we had stated, you had discussed, Mr. Termel or Mr. Lehman, before, the idea of multiple times of wanting owner occupancy and no more than, a monthly rental. And I think that it was brought up that you would want to include that in the condominium documents. Did I hear that correctly? Or am I
don't think there was a definitive answer.
Okay.
So I think what I would suggest, Mr. Chair, is that we will have a little bit of paperwork to do before legal can actually start the review. So I would suggest that the applicant should consider whether they intend, if they do intend to at least make some effort to restrict the length of rental, then that's something that I think should at least be in the initial documents.
That's why where I was going.
If they don't intend to do that, they don't need to make that change. But I would suggest while we're doing that initial work, they should think about it and make the decision about whether they intend to propose that or not. And at that point, when legal is actually ready to start reading, we should either send the version as it exists, if that's what they're going to propose, or we should send a version with that amended so legal only has to read it once.
And obviously, you're not expecting an answer on that tonight. We would submit it over the next few days. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say, as we're making the decision about, as we're getting the, here's how much the estimate, so then we would need to put you, have you set up an escrow. I think by the time that escrow is set up would be when we would be expecting an answer of, yes, this is the draft you're reviewing.
And will you notify us separately of the escrow amount? It doesn't have to go to another hearing for that, does it?
No.
No.
No, by setting it up today or by approving the motion tonight, the board is essentially empowering staff to move that process forward until we get the whole thing
That's
reviewed.
fine. Yep.
Thank you for clarifying that. I always prefer that the applicant be aware of and informed on the impacts of our decisions for that. Okay, discussion on the motion. You ready for a vote? You're aware of what you're voting on? Okay. Susan could do a roll call vote then.
Al?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. And obviously, you will work, the applicant and town staff can work out, what version goes when and where.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. I need another screen here. I think what I'll do at this point, we've heard from the abutters present. We've gotten the condominium documents for peer review, for legal review, whenever that occurs is fine. I'd like to continue to the next date and time certain. And I'd entertain a motion to that effect. We are looking at calendar-wise. We already have 2 applications on August 13th. We have a meeting on August 20th that should be fairly significant, I think. And then our next regularly scheduled meeting is the 27th of August. My personal preference would be to move to August 27th, but I haven't made the motion yet, and I don't have that authority.
May I be heard, Mr. Chairman, please?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm wondering, I know you have 2 meetings that you said on the 13th.
Correct.
Because of COVID and everything else, the season has almost been lost. And if it was possible, put it on the 13th or with the other meeting on the 20th rather than the 27th, because we're literally losing another month, and it's been since March or so, April.
Let me look again.
I'd be concerned about the 13th, that we wouldn't get the information back from the attorney yet.
That's sort of what I was thinking, but
Well, if they're pretty quick on turning their part in, it gives them.
We would get our stuff in. If we're going to change it, we'll get it in by Monday or Tuesday at the latest.
Right, and then it gets sent to the attorney.
Yeah.
So let's say I hear back from her by the end of that week, or even the middle to end of the week, and then somebody has to provide the fee and the acceptance letter. that has to go to the treasurer, who's only in on Wednesdays. So it could easily be 2 weeks before typically on these, we try to do a month. It's possible by the 20th, but I think if we go on the 13th, we're going to be calling it too tight.
Well, then let's see if, I mean, we would prefer the 13th, but the 20th would be acceptable rather than the 27th. And, you know, as far as the getting the fee goes, as you've seen, we can move pretty quickly on getting things in when they're needed.
So I think we also have the option of, if we schedule too soon and things aren't ready and the applicant isn't ready to come back that night, we can accept another request to continue and push things out.
Good point.
That's sort of what I was thinking, was to schedule for the 13th. If we don't have it, then we could push to the 20th or the 27th.
That would be awesome.
So assuming you were going to make a change to limit short-term rentals, how significant a change to the condominium documents would that be? Are we talking a paragraph?
Basically, yes.
So Linda, would it be possible to forward the one that we have for scoping purposes and say there's one paragraph they're thinking about? Please use this for scoping. We will confirm which document to read for the full review. So we could get that process started.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll save a day.
That helps it move along.
Yep. Okay. So based on that, and we have 2 waiver requests that I would want to deal with next time. But other than that, we have some changes in the document, permits.
So anything that I brought up with comments, I'm comfortable with being a condition of final approval.
Exactly. That's what I was looking at.
Minor changes to the plan set. So I think the question for you all, the process driving thing is really for that second meeting, if you all want to see that legal review back before you render a decision. That's our timeline, basically.
Right. Okay. I'm based on that, I'm comfortable with the continuing to the 13th if the motion was made.
Motion to continue to the 13th.
Do I have a second? I think it was already made. I think we didn't set a date.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was Betty and Lee.
Yeah, I think we had something to do with that.
You're cutting me out, huh? Way to go, Bob.
No, it was my
Well, that was
mistake to ask for a
That was
second.
for the legal. We did
Was
that
it for the legal?
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't have, because we haven't done continuance yet. Okay. I would entertain a motion to continue case 20-2 to August 13th.
So moved.
I knew she would do that. Second.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Betty Smith, second by Mr. Hal Kreider. Discussion. Hearing none. Susan, could do a roll call vote, please.
Betty,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes. Okay. And just for the members of the public who might be interested in this, again, the process for our 2-meeting procedure is that comments, any additional information requested of the applicant at this point in time is due to Town Hall by 4 p.m. on 10 days before the meeting, which would be Monday, August 3rd. If I have that right. Yes. And comments from the public on this case are due on 4 p.m. by August 11th, to be heard on the August 13th at the next time this case is brought up.
To that address that we said.
Okay.
If we want to say anything else. Okay.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the public, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Okay.
CIP?
Yes, CIP is in the same state it was the last time. I am having some difficulties balancing work with planning board stuff. Can't imagine why that would be. But I have been in town hall twice now in the last week, so to discuss okay. Whatever. Electronic problems. CIP, we haven't gotten any information from the fire department or highway, but I put that in the hands of the select board, and they have not brought anything back, which is fine. I'm not blaming you.
Now you have been appointed to the highway.
Yes, I have. That's right.
I spoke to you at the last meeting.
I was not there for that vote. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But
everybody knew you, so we all voted for you.
Did we actually have a highway advisory meeting?
You're gonna have to talk to Tim about that. That's his bailiwick.
Okay. Anyway, that's why I was surprised.
Facilities committee?
That's what we talked about, Betty. Yes.
Okay, well, I haven't heard anything about it yet.
Yeah, I don't think Tim or anybody has really tried to schedule anything. I'll talk to them. Actually, I just saw a note from Tim. That'll remind me to do that.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, it's not terrible to add stuff in, but the sooner I can get it, the better. If they have some, even if it's a matter of just saying, yeah, we'll have something for you.
Let me make a note.
So. Okay. And anything else anybody needs to bring up? One, two, three, four. Okay, yep, we're still legit.
I guess my question would just be, does anybody have initial thoughts about how tonight went? Are you feeling fairly comfortable with how the meeting went, how the hearing format worked out?
Yeah, other than that little glitch that I just wasn't sure of how we were handling ongoing meetings versus these new ones. I think now that we've worked through it, it's become very clear to me, and I think it's a good process. I think it's fair, and I think people, have the right to be heard, and they'll take it. But it also moves us along, so I think it's a good compromise.
The only, I guess, difficulty I have, and it's minor, is that it might be just my procedure, and then we can certainly discuss alternatives. The last thing we do is continue the case so that anyone who is waiting to hear for the deadlines as to communications has to sit through the whole thing. But I don't see a way around that. It doesn't make sense to continue the case early on so that, after the abutters speak, as for example, then be able to say.
If the second you
can't.
Continue it, you're done talking about it.
Exactly, right. So, I know.
I mean, I guess you could theoretically talk about if in accepting it as complete, you're saying, hey, this is hearing one, we know there is going to be a hearing two.
That's good.
For people watching at home, we can talk about that date. But for something like, this last case where that date was dependent on other things that we had talked about, and we were thinking about, well, will it be ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of difficult.
You might then decide that you need to change your mind, and the last thing we want to do is have somebody sign off the meeting with one date in their head and find out that it's the wrong one.
And as well, members of the public should be watching the testimony of the applicant and the board and deliver it and input till through the whole case. So even if it is recorded. So, okay.
Yeah. My only suggestion, Bob, is, I think we're starting to get a grasp for it, but as new cases come up, they won't be familiar with it. So I think you're just going to have to continue to repeat yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I think as long as you do that and remind people, I think we'll be fine.
I think what I'll do is when I open the case, I'll just get a spiel out saying, this is how we'll handle it.
Yeah. I mean, James did a good job summarizing and explaining. Yeah. And if you just reiterate that every case, I think it'll be ingrained.
Yep. Okay.
So the one thing, and maybe this is just something for Bob and staff to talk about, but I am a little concerned about having the chat open, since there was a little bit of back and forth, and public hearings are not supposed to be sort of back and forth commentary on an application. It's supposed to be, here are the concerns, here are the issues, or here are the questions. And now that you've been presented with the totality of that, you get your chance to respond to them or answer those questions. But but I don't do that. But no, this isn't the forum for that. So I think if there's a way to completely disable chat, I might prefer that. It looks like there is. The only potential question then is if somebody's sound isn't working and we've disabled the chat, there isn't a way for them to let us know.
Is there a way to disable the chat?
Well, couldn't they call?
They could call.
Well, they could call.
And they could call in. The issue would be then that I need to, when a new phone number calls in, I need to be aware that someone new has joined the meeting and ask if they wish to speak. So, which may not be in tune with the time, but so be it. So that's not a problem. That's procedural.
Yeah.
I think you only need to do that within reason.
Right.
I think if we've had our 30 minutes of public comment and we've done a going once, going twice sold, if somebody signs on 15 minutes after that, I don't think you necessarily need to accommodate them that night
especially
if we're already ready to continue and there's going to be another opportunity anyway.
Right, exactly. I completely agree.
Yeah, it would be the same as somebody running into the meeting hall as the board is deliberating.
Right.
You can have the discussion about whether to recognize somebody and let them speak.
Yes, there is a way to shut off chat during a meeting. You can, it's in the settings when the meeting is created. Allow meeting participants to send a message visible to all participants. You can turn that off, and then you can also turn off private chat.
Yeah.
So
I would say,
why don't I just turn off private chat?
I think you should turn off all chat.
All of it? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the applicant was going back and forth with an abutter in the chat section.
Right.
And I would really rather that didn't happen, particularly because then that gives an unclear impression of what's in the public record.
Yeah, I have to say also, there's been a couple meetings where after the meeting, I've looked at the chats, not our planning board, but our select board meetings, and I've seen some conversations about some of the stuff we're discussing, but not brought out in public. And so I think just turn it off, and then we don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
So for tonight, if you're able to export it, I would export the chat to be part of the public
saved it.
record. Okay.
It usually when I download everything, it all comes out.
It has the file on its own. And for reference for people, if you're in a meeting using the private chat function, when you export the chat, the private chats go in that too.
Oh, I know. I've read some different chats.
Yes.
So I know Bob and I use it sometimes for, hey, do you have this thing ready to pull up? But we can find another way to do that without having to say it out loud, or we can just say it out loud.
No, I'm not. It's a public meeting. We wouldn't have that opportunity in a regular meeting. If we were in the meeting space, I would just ask you verbally, can you get that ready?
And we certainly can't pass notes under the table in the era of COVID.
Yeah, really. Okay, that
Oh,
being
you
said,
guys do the whole meeting? I didn't know that.
And we'd have to like put it in a Ziploc bag, disinfect
Spray it with
it.
hand sanitizer.
yeah.
Sorry, it's getting late.
It is getting late. Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Betty Smith, second by Ms. Lee Baldwin. Discussion. Hearing none. There better not be any nay votes. Aye. Yes.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. We still haven't figured out who Galaxy Note is 9 yet.
No, that was Nick.
Oh, that was Nick. Okay.
Yeah.
And remember, you had to change him from Galaxy Note to Nick.
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't save that, but
Oh well, that's okay. Okay.
Is Galaxy Note still on board?
Yep. Susan can.
You can boot them off.
Boot people.
Thank you. While the three of you are on, I wanted to give you a heads up. I am probably going to take a year off planning board at the end of March.
oh, not till next year? Okay, that's fine.
My
Oh, you
term
were
is
saying
up.
like next month.
My term is up in March, but I'm probably not going to renew till I don't know when. I probably will take a year off, but that gives you plenty of time to prepare.
Well, I just got a resignation from the chair of the zoning board
Really?
with no notice. So I'm started to say that you made me very, very nervous.
Yeah, no, sorry.
No, that's good. We got some time to.
We would show up to your house and compel you.
I could walk to his house, so
I've had
Susan, we're still recording and live on YouTube.
Yeah, we are.
Oh,
good.
So the
Great.
whole town knows.